Welcome back to a Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes. It's match day. We're going to get the build-up to that game with Liam Carrigan and Lawrence Conley. Delighted to have you here, guys. How are you feeling, Lawrence? Are you buzzing for the first Champions League encounter against Feyenoord in Rotterdam?
I'm, mate, but it's a wee bit tempered with having so much money in the bank and not having a decent backup goalkeeper or a decent backup left back that we've known for ages we've needed. So you're kind of going, perhaps we go out and win this in the Birds at Sea. We don't need to spend money. Who knows?
I hope that's not the case.
But that was a weird thing, their justification is we need it in case we don't qualify for the Champions League. That's what we need the money for. But the other season was, we don't budget and qualify for the Champions League. That's always an extra for us. We run our club is based on not qualifying for the Champions League. You're going, well, what is it? Has that changed now?
Well, evidently it has with that statement. There's a lot of people talking about it in the comments. We'll be talking about, in terms of stockpiling cash, Liam, there's so much you could do with that. Obviously, there is in terms of building an infrastructure on the playing side, on the business side. We go for a wander around paradise every Monday. And the amount of comments I get about what we're doing to the outside of that stadium, there's so much you could do. I'll throw in there former players. We need to look after former players as well. So, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the finance without a doubt, obviously, in rude health. But it's the big one tonight. Liam, I feel a bit sorry for you, though, because work it out for me. What time is it over there when we kick off tonight?
It's going to be about 4 o'clock in the morning, I think. The good thing is once we get to when the clocks go back in Scotland, it's going to be 5 o'clock in the morning. And I usually get up at 6 o'clock in the morning anyway for work, so it's only going to be an hour as opposed to. It doesn't sound like much, but there's a big difference to me in terms of my ability to function for the entire day, getting up at 4 as opposed to getting up at 5. So I don't think I'll manage today, but I might manage games from October onwards, hopefully.
So how do you deal with it then? Do you manage to watch an as live kind of version of the game? Do you stay off the socials and then watch it without knowing the score? Is that possible, Liam?
The only way I'm able to do that is to when I get to work, if I don't have a class first period, I'll try and find it on YouTube or something. The problem is usually the score is in the tagline, so it's kind of hard to find it without knowing the score.
Yeah,
but,
yeah, absolutely. It's just to try and get into the actual zone of watching the game, even though it's been hours previously. I'm going to do a big shout out here actually, because those who are regular to a Celtic State of Mind's live streams and the bulletin on a daily basis and the match days will be familiar with big Ewan Boy Martin, who's in Rotterdam as we speak. I think he's maybe just sleeping it off. Right? He's maybe sleeping last night off. If we don't see him in the chat, that's what he'll be doing. But he enjoyed a few shandies in Shane's bar. And a big shout out to Dominic and Shane, who are big Celtic fans and who do watch Acsom. So a massive shout out to you guys. And I think you bought a couple of drinks for all of us, but they were all consumed by big Ewan. So I hope you had a big, excellent night in Rotterdam. A couple of the Acsom team are over there as well, Lawrence. Hopefully at some point this season, a few more of us can go over, might even take a camera to one of the away days.
Oh, it would be excellent, wouldn't it?
Would you be up for that, big fella?
Oh, yeah, we trip to Europe. Why not? I mean, we've got the trip to Anfield coming up at some point.
Aye, let's hope so.
Cameras for that, though. Listen, just giving shout-outs to viewers, mate. Bumped into Sean Morgan and Graham at the After Board Stan Petrov night. So a big hello to them. They were just saying how much they enjoy the show, watch it all the time, when they get into night shift, bang it on.
No, I love that. And we are going to be talking about quite a few actual initiatives, but I'm going to start off, guys, with St. Roch's. And I just think everybody should realise the amount of work these guys have put into the centenary game. They've just announced it's completely sold out. The tickets have been on general sale now for 2 days, and it's completely sold out. Now, the thing with that, Liam, is, in terms of budgets and staff and all this kind of stuff, this is a tiny wee community club who operate in the Gangad and obviously up at James McGrory Park, and the links between the two sides are quite clear, Celtic and St. Roch's. And they came up with the centenary, and every single obstacle they came up against, they've managed to batter through it. None more so than the pandemic, because their centenary season was 2020. And instead of just moving on and getting on with day-to-day life, they resurrected the idea. They've organised the centenary game. They are playing against a Celtic Select, which obviously Acsom are involved in bringing together a group of Celtic players. It's getting pretty competitive, I'm going to say that. It's not just 11 guys in Celtic jerseys. We want to win the game, obviously. But what an achievement. Huge round of applause virtually for the St. Roch guys. Superb, Liam.
Yeah, I would just add that I know a fair bit about the junior game because, believe it or not, a few years ago, my dad was actually the chairman of New Mains United for a wee while. So I'm very well aware of the budgetary constraints that these clubs have to operate under, the size and scope of the junior game is obviously, well, with the greatest respect, it's microscopic compared to something like Celtic. So getting every game played is a massive effort. Volunteers, people who support the club regardless of what the weather's like or what how things are going in their personal lives, they always get along and support. And the junior game is a great day out. It really is. I would encourage anybody to go and watch some junior football if you've got some time when Celtic aren't playing. It really is it's a very raw, very visceral, but very enjoyable experience.
Lawrence, you were up there just the other week, weren't you? You and Kev
went
to the game.
It was up for a game. We saw them collect their first 3 points when we were up. So me and Kev take from the penalty spot. I'm sure everybody knows the penalty spot in Sword Street. But well looked after by the boys at St. Roch. But it's more than just football up there. For what they do in the community. Steve Mullen, a lot of the guys will know. He was involved for a long time. Setting up the mental health support group. That's still running. So they've got a lot of community support groups going up there. Real community club, doing everything they can to make things better for people in that area. And help people. So it's a volunteer committee. Some of the boys you talk to, they say, "Oh, my dad was on the committee. I've taken over from him," and it's a real labour of love for him. And you just wish them all the best with what they're doing, because they're really putting stuff back into the community and areas that maybe central and local government are neglecting. These guys are picking up, and showing you, the people can do it.
No, you're right, because you've got, the Rock Talk initiative that they set up, which was the mental health initiative. People turning up and without question getting involved and going for a good bit of exercise and talking and opening up, and often finding that the only source of engagement that they had was going through this Rock Talk initiative. So brilliant. We're always willing to help the guys up at James McGrory Park. And to be honest with you, it's blown us away to hear that this morning. So well done, everybody that's been working up at the Rock, up at the Candy. And I cannot wait till the 15th of October. We will be up there covering the game as well. We'll keep you updated on how Charlie Mulgrew and who else will be announced, Joe Miller and John Hughes. And there's going to be probably another 15 or 16 on top of that, Lawrence. I was planning to name one or two beforehand, but there was a couple of stories that came out. I just had to have a look at them to include them in today's discussion. But we're going to be concentrating mainly on the Champions League. What does Stephen Sloan think? He's bringing in the financials. Financial results are very impressive, but that statement from Lowell is alarming. So we're basically holding cash in case we don't win the league. Talk about backward thinking. Yeah, in a way. I think it's obviously there's a lot of chat about this on the socials, a lot of blogs being written about it as well in relation to why hoard the cash. And there is a section in there talking about the fact that we're not guaranteed Champions League football. I mean, there's being safe and being ultra safe. The other thing that interested me, I felt, Liam, was when we talk about signing players and people don't like the tag project signing and all that. Well, that was actually spoken about in the report. And it's basically players that can be developed and getting a mix of players that can be developed, what we used to call a project player, and those who can make an immediate impact. And I think that's a good differentiation. I think the problem this pre-season, though, is we don't think, so far, we've not really had that immediate impact player. We've not had that enough of them, have we?
No, I mean, Yang shows the signs that he could be that player, but he's no, he's barely played, what has he played, 2 or 3 games so far, so you can't really judge him on that. Look, the whole thing about, we've got to keep money back in case we don't win the league, I just don't buy that at all, right? Celtic have enough of a structure in place that what happened to the old Rangers will never happen to us, right? The days of the days of the Kellys running the club into the ground, that is long gone, right? We've made that mistake, we've paid for it, we've done our penance. It's not going to happen again. I get actively annoyed when I do hear some Celtic fans saying, like, "Oh, do you want to end up like Rangers? Do you want to end up like Rangers?" It's like, that's not an issue. It's not going to happen. And
what do you think you're going to answer? Do you think you're going to go, "Aye, that's what I want"? It's like it's the worst question ever.
I know. But the other thing is that anyone who's ever worked in business, they'll tell you that you have to speculate to accumulate. And if we really want to have a tilt at doing something in the Champions League, especially next season when it's all or nothing on the Champions League because there is no parachute into the Europa, which is, in all honesty, probably more our level as we are at the moment. We're going to have to drop probably 50 or 60 million quid on 7 or 8 players that are going to be Champions League level if we actually want to compete at that level. If we're happy to just turn up, get scudded, and get the money banked every season, then just continue as we are. But I do not think anybody's going to be happy with that. So
you're right.
It's the short-termism of the board really frustrates me, and this is just one facet of it. It also bleeds into their media. It bleeds into the lack of commercializing the brand over here in Japan. I think I've already spoke about what a commercial flop the Japan tour was because it was flagrantly overpriced, both in tickets and merch. But what can you do? It's just the way the Celtic board operate.
No, it is the way they operate.
Plan for Europe that's a bit worrying. Is obviously we need 4 club trained players, 4 league trained players. Does David Turnbull have another season at Celtic? Does James Forrest? Does Tony Ralston? Does Mikey Johnston? We only just made that 8 quota. So what's the forward planning for next season? Because we didn't buy the best players in Scotland that were league trained in the last few years. So what are we going to do? We don't have a lot of young guys coming through the ranks that are getting game time. So you could be without Turnbull if he doesn't sign a new contract. Even if he does, is it good enough? Ralston, James Forrest, and Mikey Johnston. There's 4 of your 8 gone.
You'd be forced, Lawrence.
What's your plan?
You'd be forced to go into a transfer window and buy 4 homegrown players. You'd be forced into that because, as you say, you don't have the talent coming through. And by the way, I do think Celtic produce talent. I just don't think we're able to nurture them whilst we're playing 5th-tier Scottish football. I think quite a few guys over the years, and we've spoken about, the raft of talent has gone elsewhere, Lawrence. I think we are producing them. We just can't keep a hold of them. The pathway's not there. Yeah, I know. Classic example, Ben Doak. And I think there's a whole number of them. There's going to be a time, I think, in the not too distant future where you could probably put a whole team of them together that, not that long ago were on Celtic's books. But yeah, you've backed ourselves into a corner with that one, Lawrence. If you lose the players you've mentioned, you're going to have to replace them with homegrown players to meet the quota because we don't have the guys to step up.
It's players that's the worrying thing. So we can go to elsewhere in the league and you go, well, where are we getting the club trained players? Where are they coming from?
Well, I remember the quote that Rogers made not too long ago talking about kind of backfilling, so it would be the last 4 names on the list would be 4 guys that don't have the experience. So it's not ideal. It's absolutely not ideal in a 25-man squad. But you're right, it's that is a legacy issue. It's happened over a period of time and maybe Brendan Rodgers is the guy that needs to sort it out. But yeah, it's frustrating, I think, when you're sitting with stockpiles of cash. You're going into a game like tonight, no disrespect to the defence who's going to be turning out, but it's not ideal, is it? We're going to be talking position by position, who might be playing tonight. But, a terrible injury crisis aside, we should have strengthened in various areas of the park in the pre-season there. We didn't, and we've got all this money. So I think there's a frustration. But there's other aspects of the club, like you said, Liam, that, we do the Wander in Paradise. We're always talking about things that could be done in and around the stadium that the worldwide fan base visit on a daily basis. Yeah, you can go for the tour. Beyond that, what else can you do? You can go and buy some merch from the shop, but there's so much scope to build other areas that fans can appreciate and use. And you know what? It generates cash as well. I know there's a big investment happening up at Barrafield, but with that kind of money, you can do it all. It's not as though you can say, right, we can develop Barrafield, but that means you're not getting a new left back. We can do it all. And that's the frustration. But despite all that, I want to enjoy tonight's game, ladies and gents. I want to talk about the fact we are at the top table. Tobago Street Police Station, Celtic Supporters Club.
Mate, I'm going there one day.
You remember you remember already, Lawrence, because I met the founding member up at Celtic Park a few weeks ago, and he said if you've ever spent a night in the cells in Tobago Street in Glasgow, you are a member of the CSC. So listen, I don't want to know the details, but I'm pretty sure you remember. I'm very much looking forward to tonight and a chance for ecstatic outbursts and wide-eyed optimism. You've got to, haven't you? I'll have more enjoyment just watching Celtic in a European game than almost any domestic game. No matter what happens, Lawrence, you believe going into these games. You believe, no matter the fact you've got Liam Scales, who I think, if everybody's fit, is maybe, what would you say, fourth choice, centre-half. You've got Lagerbielke, who's maybe third choice, centre-half. You're going into this game tonight with these two guys who, by the way, I think they've performed admirably together. You've got Taylor at left back, and we wanted that position strengthened. You're going into the game, and there's a few doubts in your mind, but anything can happen. Brendan Rodgers is already selling the dream. Anything can happen tonight.
Listen, Aberdeen in another 50,000. Scales would have been there. So anything can happen. And this is a level we want to be judged on.
Yep.
It's not Scotland. It's all right, kind of being safe going up, but isn't much of a challenge. Look at the domination over the past 10, 12 years. How much of a challenge do we really get in Scotland? We'll make it, obviously this year we're not doing a treble, but trebles have become almost normal for us. We look what we've done in the last 12 years in Europe, and it's pitiful. This is where we want to be judged. This is where we want to see progress. This is what Brendan spoke about, when he was reappointed. It's Europe that he wants to see progress in. Mm-hmm. And for all we're saying, Scales could have been at Aberdeen and Lagerbielke maybe third choice. A lot of these clubs don't spend as much as us on players or in wages. So, yeah, anything is possible. Brendan's a decent manager. Feyenoord, you would hope that if you look at it in terms of finances to them, they don't dwarf us. We should be able to compete with them. We should be able to beat them. Tonight will tell, but certainly, when it kicks off, I'm going to believe in it that we can beat them regardless of who the defence or midfield or forward line is. We're Celtic in Europe. Does it? It's supporting the team, isn't it? You don't. It's not about, I suppose, who the individual players are. It's about the collective.
It is.
Gets them playing well. They can pull off.
Well, in terms of a win, if Celtic get a win tonight, it would be a phenomenal result because, yes, I know when you're looking at finance, etc., but Feyenoord, in terms of the team that they have assembled, the fact that they're on superb form, I wouldn't say Celtic at the moment are on superb form. We'll come back to that. They're winning games again, which is great preparation, but playing Dundee, no disrespect, in order to prepare for a game against Feyenoord away from home, Liam, it is night and day. It's night and day what we've just prepared for against the opposition we were up against at the weekend. Absolutely. Yeah. Every single player on the park tonight has to be at the top of his game for us to get a result, and that result for me is a draw. By the way, if we get a win, that's beyond that's a phenomenal outcome. But we cannot underestimate the challenge this evening.
No, on our Celtic Down Under show yesterday, I predicted a 2-each draw, as did Jared actually. I think, that's, to me, that would be perfect. You want to win the home games and try and pick up something away from home.
Yeah.
In the Champions League. And we are opening up away to the top seeded team in our group. I think there's been a lot of talk in the press that's been bordering on disrespectful to Feyenoord, to be honest. They're the Dutch champions. Mm-hmm. They're in pot 1 on merit. and yet everyone's talking about how Atletico Madrid are probably going to win the group, and it's a shootout between the other 3 teams to see who gets second. I think that's very, very disrespectful to Feyenoord. They are a fantastic football team. I mean, you look at the demolition job PSV did on Rangers a couple of weeks ago, and Feyenoord finished above them in the league. So we're playing a team that's even better than that.
What was that score, mate?
Oh, you know what? I can't seem to remember. Remind me. Refresh my memory.
I'm sure Paul John knows. I must have missed that.
In terms of Scottish football, only concentrate on one team, Lawrence, you know that. Feyenoord's form, when you look at the results coming into this game, and I know that often we give Scottish football a hard time. We think about the actual level, the standard of opposition, and is it ideal? Well, that's where we are. And if we draw Dundee in a league fixture before Feyenoord, that's the challenge. And by the way, for the first half, it wasn't guaranteed we were going to get through that particular challenge. But you look at the Feyenoord, the last 3 games I know have been pointed out time and time again. 6-1, 5-1, 6-1. I've not checked yet if Barkas was in goals for Utrecht in the 5-1 game. Possibly he was. But you go into a game tonight, they're going to be full of confidence. They're obviously got the home advantage as well. Lawrence, I'm a dreamer, as most football fans are, and I do hope that we can get a result. I did predict 2 each because I don't think we'll keep a clean sheet, but we've got enough up top in terms of the creativity, Lawrence, in our team. We've got enough up top to get a goal. And I think that obviously, this is where the cliches get dragged out. If we go a goal down, it's going to be tough to get back into that game. It's going to involve us opening up, and then they have got enough weapons to really harm us. If we go a goal up, however, I think it's a completely different story. And I don't mean like you're going to rattle Barcelona's cage in the new camp and they come back firing. I just think the 2 each is something that I would be delighted with that as a first result. We've got friends over in Feyenoord, so a big shout out to them. Ellen Mannins has appeared on a Celtic State of Mind, and she will be joining us again for the home leg as well when she comes over to Glasgow. There's also a few of the Acsom team over in Rotterdam just now. Natasha, Big Ewan, of course, JP is over there as well. And I'm pretty sure some ex-members such as wee Declan is over there as well because he loves following Celtic home and away. So what do you make of tonight's game? We're going to run through the team and some of the dilemmas that Brendan might face. Paddy, plenty of money in the bank, but spend hee-haw. That's the Celtic way. We, as always, are getting treated as mugs now. One of the big things I said earlier is I do think that as a football club, we need to engage with the current former players association to ensure that former players of the club are looked after. Lawrence, obviously, we're in touch with quite a few of them for the centenary game. Some of them are at Celtic Park quite a bit. Some aren't. They've all contributed, Lawrence, and it would be great if there was some kind of association that had a presence up at Celtic Park, and anybody who's represented this football club would be able to obviously benefit from a whole number of different initiatives that these former players associations put in place. Some of the great examples, Everton have got a fantastic former players association. We need to look after our ex-players, Lawrence, because they created the history for us.
Yeah, definitely. Celtic don't seem to make a lot of the centenary team, which is unusual. I do a lot with the players. They produce the replica jerseys and make the money off it. But what you do for the players? So you would hope that Celtic had an eye on the responsibility to them and give them a nod. They might have been players and been getting paid then, but they're still earning money off of what they've done back then.
Absolutely, yeah. I
went talking to some Lisbon Lions when I was doing gigs with Kevin then, and there was a cup final coming up and finding out they didn't get any tickets off the club. And I'm thinking, geez, I'm talking to Lisbon Lions and saying they'll get a cup final and he's not getting a ticket off the club. Mm-hmm. It's just mind-blowing stuff, you know what I mean?
It can be set up in such a way, Lawrence, that you obviously need full-time people working there. But for example, an ex-player could come into financial difficulty in later life. They could have addiction issues. They could be ill. They could require private operations, etc. They might need legal advice for any number of reasons. And there needs to be, for me, a hub, a former players association, which actually washes its own face. It generates its own finance. It's able to tap into its own structure so that if somebody needs assistance, and it could be something really simple, it could be something like there's a network of workers and they go there and they get particular jobs done at a discount. It could be that, at any time a former player goes up to Celtic Park, there's somewhere for them to go. It could be, having that hub if they need tickets, if family are over from abroad, etc. All that kind of stuff is dealt with the length and breadth of the country through a former players association. It's something that we lack, Liam. We need to look after the former players.
Yep, I'm going to be careful what I say here because I think maybe the Celtic board have got tabs on my internet connection. So, but no, I totally agree. Anybody who played for Celtic probably prior to the mid to late 90s is not necessarily going to be financially secure once they retire.
Yeah,
and even then, that's assuming they don't have, as you said before, addiction issues, gambling problems, drinking problems, whatever, in which case no amount of money secures you because you can always piss it away. So yeah, there needs to be something in place. These people give us so much joy on the park, and the amount of times, I think we all relate to this, the amount of times when we've had something really bad happen in our personal life, or we're just feeling down about the whole world, and then we go out and watch Celtic batter somebody, and it feels everything just seems so much better.
Yep.
Those players are there when we need them, so we should be there when they need us.
It's a great point, Liam, because I think Ange said it really, really well, talking about a European game when he was in charge, where we were forced to kick off at a ridiculous time. And I'm pretty sure a few people pulled a sickie here and there, Lawrence, all around Glasgow to get to the game. And he spoke about that. We give people who might have a lot of things going on in their life, we give them a bit of joy, a bit of entertainment, a bit of escapism. And it's the players and the management, it's these guys, it's these figures. And like you say, just because the modern era is engulfed with cash and there's a lot of cash-rich players retiring, etc., that is not the case for a huge amount of ex-players. So, yeah, that's something that I would like to see an investment in, an initial investment, but it's something that can be run charitably. It's something that can be run without losing the club money. It's there to benefit the ex-players. That's my big shout-out. Yeah, we're going to be looking at the Team Jungle Lion. You're back in. Head says Feyenoord. Heart is hoping for a draw. Imagine we get a win. Oh, that would be
3-1, mate.
That next level. If we get a 3-1 tonight, Lawrence, I'm buying you lunch. Celtic follower will watch this later, just popping in to say a win tonight would be awesome. But I'd settle for a draw since we're away. 2 each, I reckon. Yep, I'd be more than happy with that. Ryan T67 need us to score first for any type of result, I think. And Double Denim, always a pleasure to see you, sir. Afternoon all. Champions League. Yeah, I'm getting a bit of that kind of vibe myself, to be honest with you. And what I've been trying to do is put a wee jersey behind us on a daily basis because they're coming in thick and fast. People are sending them to us, meeting us up at the stadium, handing them over for the Sell the Jerseys initiative. And I often say that, I don't even know if there's any point in saying this. I often say, what does this jersey remind you of? Is it too obvious who this reminds you of, Liam? Which game this jersey reminds you of? It is, isn't it?
Harold Bratback, stopping the 10. Yep. I have that jersey and I have Harold's name and number on the back here.
It's an absolute cracking jersey. It's got the sleeve badges on it and all that. It's a beauty, it really is, because even at the time, it's nodding back to the old 70s with the V insert and all that kind of stuff.
Badge in the middle, mate.
Badge in the middle, yep. 1970s style.
Yep.
I like it. I like it a lot. And that's up there because I've got to say a massive thank you to the people who are sending them in. And Martin knows who he is, Martin Scullion. Thank you so much for sending this one through to us. It's really appreciated, and they are going to a great cause. Anything that's came in already, ready to go, framed, signed, is going straight to the family because we've got a big charity ball next month. So they're going to use them immediately. So that about a dozen items are going to go straight to the wee guy. The rest of them, obviously, we're going to build up the signatures, get them framed, etc. Michael the boy, let's go and win it tonight. Fear no one. 11 against 11. Well, this is the thing. What's the latest on the Nat Phillips injury? The last I heard is that he might not make the starting lineup. So let's start with the centre half position then. Lawrence, you've got Scales, you've got Lagerbielke, and obviously Phillips started the game against Dundee. How did you think he did?
Listen, he was okay, but he obviously had to come off with an injury. Hadn't played for a while. Looked a wee bit rusty. Are we going to judge him over 45 minutes? No, not really. I suppose it... Frustration is, he was signed so late, or we signed so a centre-half so late. We knew we had an injury crisis at least 2 weeks before we signed him. And he comes in last minute, allegedly carrying an injury, then obviously gets injured. But, I think it's going to be Scales and Lagerbielke, isn't it? Those are 2 fit guys. I don't think you've got much choice there.
You don't. You really don't. And I think what's happened, though, is sometimes when you have no choice and it's a case, Liam, of, right, we need to stand up and be counted here, it's time for heroes style. And I think we got a bit of that at Ibrox with Liam Scales. He really stepped up. It was a proper performance by Scales. We then come up against a Dundee side who are lacking in quality. I think Docherty knows what he needs to do at Celtic Park. If you go out and attack, we can pick you off. The score can be anything, right? I mean, we were beating teams 9-0 last season. It can happen. We beat 6-0 at home last season as well. That is why teams line up like that. So we need to combat it. And one of the moments I think at the weekend that really stands out for me in the first half is the way that Scales was able to unpick the defence just with that dink over the top, because we do have pace up top. We've got the pace, obviously physically, but the pace he thought of the likes of Abada when he's fit. We've got Kyogo, who can see pockets of space that no one else can. We've got Maeda. And sometimes that wee dink over the top works, and it was Scales that I think maybe gave us that idea. We obviously did it again in the second half. I thought Scales played another tidy game. He lost too many aerial duels for me, I think. And that's my big concern going into the game tonight if Scales starts. But he does deserve the start, doesn't he?
Yep. It's, people like me who, and I'm on record as saying it, I didn't think Scales was Celtic class. And one great game against Rangers does not make me suddenly change that, if I'm being brutally honest. But he's there on merit at the moment. It would be completely unfair if he was dropped. Phillips looked all right, but as Lawrence has already touched on, he's clearly not quite there yet in terms of being up to speed with the game. You don't chuck someone into a Champions League match if they're not 100% sharp. Even if his fitness is okay, the sharpness at the weekend was definitely not there in the first half.
Yeah, yep.
So Scales is there on merit. Lagerbielke is our next best option. That's the back two for me.
Yeah, and again, you're thinking about partnerships, and we have gone 3 games without conceding a goal, right? And for 2.5 of those games, it was Lagerbielke and Scales. You've got to play Phillips at the weekend. You've got to give him that run out. You've got to build him up. But even if he hadn't been injured, Liam, I think it was clear that sharpness, that match sharpness wasn't quite there. And if it's not there against Dundee, you don't throw him in. So even if he was 100% fit, I don't know what's happening with the ankle getting rolled, I would probably, sitting here, I would probably still go with Scales and Lagerbielke. And I know you brought Phillips in because he's got Champions League experience. He's got top flight experience in England. I get all that. But it can be far more of a risk if he's not got the sharpness, Lawrence. And I think that's what Scales and Lagerbielke do have, because they've obviously been playing together over the last few games.
Listen, they'll definitely starting to build an understanding on the park. The minutes on the park under pressure together. And look, I don't think Scales is the right level of centre-half that we're looking for. But he's come out and he's on record after the game at Ibrox saying, I'm going to give Brendan Rodgers a problem. I'm going to make it difficult for him to drop me. Mm-hmm. You think back to striking. 2 last 16 finishes with Caldwell and McManus. They weren't the best centre-halves.
I will not have a bad word said about Heed and McManus.
They weren't the best centre-halves.
The thing is, Lawrence, that was the biggest mistake Mowbray made when he came in. He dismantled that partnership.
There was a partnership there, and maybe Mowbray's come in and went, they're not the standard of centre-half I'm looking for.
Yep.
Can see, where they need to be improved. It can get players in that are better at certain aspects. But, under striking, 2 last 16. in the Champions League. Unlucky
Yeah.
to go to eventual winners AC Milan.
Mhm.
So, you know, if Brendan can get them drilled and they follow instruction, and he plays a unit, that back four, there's no reason we can't go and get a result. You know,
No.
because it's not about, you know, it's about the team being better than some of the individuals, isn't it?
You're right. You're absolutely right. And I think that was the key to Gordon Strachan's success. It was about the team. And I think if you get that partnership, and listen, there's more of a partnership with Lagerbielke and Scales as there is with Phillips for obvious reasons. I think it's a safer bet. You play the two guys tonight, flanked by your two full-backs in Johnston and left-back Taylor. I'm going to ask you because I know you're a big fan. By the way, sorry, I was actually just sorting someone out for a ticket this evening from our friends in Feyenoord. So hopefully that works out and they can meet up and all that kind of stuff. That would be fantastic. But yeah, I think Taylor's performances of late, I felt they started improving against St Johnstone. I'll come to you first, Liam. I know Lauren's a big fan. He's been he's been getting a bit of flack this season, and I think understandably so because the performances haven't been there, Liam. But I noticed against St Johnstone he was coming in a lot more. Against Rangers, different type of game, but then it was quite clear against Dundee that he was back to the Taylor that you know over the last couple of seasons has performed really well.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, any player in a team can only play the way the manager allows them to play.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big marker of our uptick in form since we beat Rangers has been the fact that Rodgers has clearly said, look, all right, inverted fullbacks is the way to go. It's maybe no my preferred option, but it's what you guys are best at doing, so have at it.
Yep.
And Johnson and Taylor were both excellent at the weekend. You know, on another day, Johnson gets 2 goals. And Taylor, I thought, didn't put a foot wrong. There's always, periodically, throughout the whole time I've been watching Celtic, there's always been players that it's been fashionable to kind of dump on. You know, I remember back in the day, it was Jackie McNamara. Then, you know, more recently, you know, last season for a time, it was Dyson Maeda. To some fans, the jury's still out on Dyson. God knows why. And now it's Greg Taylor. It's kind of understandable because it's a reactionary thing amongst fans of all football teams, not just Celtic, that when the team's not playing well and you know the team is better than the performances are giving you,
Yeah.
What's going wrong? And you pick out the player who you think's having a bad game, neglecting the fact that the entire team are not playing well. It's reactionary. It's, you know, it's unfortunate, but it is understandable. So I think that the fact that Celtic as a unit have been much better in the last couple of games is also reflected in the fact that Taylor, a lot of the heat has come off him, particularly in the last game, because I thought he was superb.
No, he was. He was very good. And I think as well, Lawrence, in relation to Taylor, is he's a guy that he's been there before. He knows what it's like to be the whipping boy. He was written off before he came through that. And I'm pretty sure that the levels he reached, you know, under Ange Postecoglou weren't a flash in the pan. A big, massive part of that was down to the shape of the side, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but no, as much as Taylor's improved, Maeda's performances in front of him have improved.
Yeah.
The partnership to his right, Scales and Lagerbielke's getting a bit of understanding.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're starting to work as a team. So you see, I suppose judge players in isolation, but when you look what's happening round about Taylor, why was he under the cosh a bit? Dyson was the quite at the heights he was last season. New partnership, the centre halves to his right. It's going to affect his game, both those things. Now they're getting some more minutes on the park, whether Brendan's changed the inverted or whether they're maybe just understanding more what Brendan wants and they're getting to know each other's games better. It's starting to show, isn't it? You know, they're getting a bit more comfortable together and playing together. They're looking better. Hopefully it results in, you know, a win tonight. A decent performance from Greg. You know, you can definitely do it at this level.
See, in saying all that though, Lawrence, I still want a new left back because if Taylor gets injured, right?
Yeah,
I'm sorry that the drop in standard, the drop in level is too vast for me for the big games.
Look at this. We spent what, 4 million in Bernaby?
Yeah.
3.7. I think we knew at the end of last season he's not competition. You know, where's Adam Montgomery? Is he going to make up and count as a club trained player? Maybe, but not this season for us. So yeah, I think everybody was shocked we didn't get some competition in for Greg. I look back. There could have been another fullback in the Scottish game that we could have brought in. We could have had a look and said, right, who's the left? The Scottish trained.
Yes.
We'll count, you know, because we know we're going to be looking for that 8 quota next season for Europe. Who could we get in that will help us towards that quota? But for want, I don't know, it must have been for want of trying, because it wasn't for want of money. You know, the money was there.
No, you're right. You're right. And again, there was the mention in the report as well, though, Lawrence, about the way that the wage structure and all that kind of thing. You know, it's difficult if you've got a wage structure and the wages are going through the roof. And there's a new market entering the race now, with obviously the Saudi money coming in as well. So I think that everything escalates. Wages go up, transfer fees, and it's not just the transfer fee you're concerned about. It's giving somebody a 4 or 5 year deal on, you know, escalated wages, and that was pretty key. But yeah, I think you made a good point at the start of the show, Lawrence. We're going to find ourselves backed into a corner when it comes to the homegrown players, because James McCarthy won't be here next season, right? He's not in the squad anyway. Turnbull, question mark over him. You mentioned Montgomery there. Montgomery, by all accounts, was excellent last season for St Johnstone.
Yep.
St Johnstone fans were raving about him. And obviously he's gone for more experience. I don't know how Bruni leaving is going to affect his move down south. But you're looking for players to come through the ranks. That's a legacy issue. If they're not ready, you can't force it. And as you say, you might be forced to go in and buy 2 or 3 kind of locally trained players from other clubs in Scotland. You know what? We could maybe just bring in Robertson and John McGinn and a couple of guys like that. You and Boy Martin, hail troops. I was wondering if you were up here, and that's why I gave you a shout out earlier on. You might have missed it, and I hope you're enjoying yourself over in Rotterdam, and you had a good night last night at your new best friend's bar. Davy Boy Macaulay, hail comrades. Anybody else randomly chanting Celtic under their breath today? Yes, of course, especially if you're at your work. Johnny Ryan, Hoopy Tuesday. Always great to see. There's a positivity flowing through the chat today. Harper, cool, come on, it sells. And interim, says Stuart Ramsey. I love that. What player do you think in the dressing room and in the tunnel, Liam, is an interim player? Because I'm thinking it's Alistair Johnson, honestly. You know, if anybody's feeling a wee bit weak or whatever, you just look at Big Johnston, eh?
Alistair Johnson's that wee silent assassin. He's got the cheeky grin and the kind of affable demeanour, but he's just going to slice you in half the minute he has to get the ball at you. You know, you can just see it. Yeah. Johnson's fast becoming one of my favourite players, honestly. I just love the guy's style. I love the way he plays. I love the way he presents himself in post-match interviews, whatever, as well. Thoroughly likeable guy, excellent footballer, and a bit of a savage when he has to be.
A bit of a savage, aye. Definitely.
I think Joe Hart's another one who's going to be giving it big vocals. I don't know if any have seen that video that was doing the rounds a while ago of the difference between Joe Hart and a normal goalkeeper. There was like a normal goalkeeper, the ball goes out for like a by kick, and he's like, ball boy, here, right? Joe Hart is like, ball, no, give me that effing ball, give me that effing ball.
Yeah,
like,
I remember it.
That's Big Joe.
I remember it. But you know what? Like Johnson, like you said about Johnson, you called him a savage. He's not just a savage on the park. They were doing an interview on Celtic TV, and he was a savage towards Jota, saying that, when we signed you from bench Fika and all this kind of stuff. I thought it was brilliant. It was superb. He was getting stuck right in about him. Alan Robertson, afternoon to you. Hope you're well, sir. And we've got Van coming in. Huge night for Kyogo. It's a good point, this. He'll go 1 or 2 chances. I'm sure he'll get 1 or 2 chances. But got to take them at this level. And we're going to be talking about Kyogo because it was a huge sigh of relief when he came back on the park at the weekend. John Polikis, come on the hoops. Give us a win on my 63rd birthday today. John, happy birthday. I hope you do. John. Absolutely. I hope you have a cracking night this evening whilst Liam's tucked up in bed and we're all watching the game. Keith Oakton, hello from Adricket, Plymouth. Oh dear. The weather has taken a turn for the worse, hasn't it? And Martin O'Neill, afternoon Axomniacs. Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to Kyogo, but I think you mentioned Joe Hart, so we'll have a wee chat about Joe Hart. Lawrence, he is back to doing what he does best, isn't he, Joe Hart?
Yeah, listen, he's a cracking keeper. Great pedigree. You know, we'll need a big game from him tonight. I suppose it's a bit like the Taylor conversation. Where's his backup? You know, when you Seagrass was there, Jesus, well, knowing Bain's not been up for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's not for want of money, is it? And you look at Man United signed the boy over, was it Fenerbahce for 4.2? Sure, that would be.
What did you make, Lawrence? On that point, though, what did you make of Brendan Rodgers' comments? You know, you've probably tired of the tedious kind of line of questioning about transfers, not getting them through the door, etc. And he said, ask me again in January. Is it a case maybe where we were down the line, we did have, you know, key targets in these areas and we just couldn't get it over the line? It's maybe a case that we'll bring them in January. You got belief that might happen?
Well, does Joe have another season in him if we don't bring him in January? It'd be crazy, wouldn't it? But yeah, listen, I'm no doubt we're working on things. The worry is, it's all right saying we're working on things. Oh, Kieran Tierney was close, this guy was close, this guy. It's about getting a team in the park and getting a squad, not about money in the bank. You know, it's all right saying we're close. Next transfer window, don't worry, we'll do it. Hopefully, you know, he's identified, I think, that the rumours, the boy at Liverpool, Kevin Kelleher, and looks a cracking keeper. You know, is he better than Seagrass? I'd say undoubtedly. Is he better than Bain? Yeah. Would he be better than if you played both of them in goals at the one time? Yeah. You know, so if he signs are like brilliant, if we're humiliated in the Champions League and we sign him in January, was it worth saving the money?
I think there's a real balance, right? Because there's having money in the bank, and I can understand. Obviously, it was in the report. There's the explanation around we're not guaranteed Champions League football, therefore we're going to be very prudent and we're going to keep some money in the bank. But there's keeping money in the bank. There's keeping that amount of money in the bank. I mean, dearie me, that wouldn't fit under your mattress, would it? And I'd much rather have a left back and a goalie, and that's right, and a forward, because Kyogo had us all worried at the weekend, and that's all it takes. I'm not saying that O doesn't have it, but at this stage, going into a game against Feyenoord tonight in the Champions League, Liam, or going into the final Champions League fixture this season where we need to get something from it, and Kyogo pops his shoulder and he can't play the game, are you confident going in with O?
Not really, no, if I'm being honest. Not because there's anything wrong with O, just because he's not necessarily proven at that level. So we don't know if he would be able to do it or not. Whereas Kyogo, I know, can do it. I would, in that set of circumstances, I'd probably rather switch to playing Dyson up front.
Yep.
But you know, that's just my view. I mean, you know, to talk about the money thing for a wee bit, you know, I'm gonna paraphrase the late great Sean Locke, who, when he was roasting Jimmy Carr, once said, "We all like to prepare for a rainy day." He said, "Son, you're better prepared than Noah." That's the Celtic board right now.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a being cautious, and there is trying to align your ambition with your action. And I think that the playing safe mentality is all fine and well if your team doesn't have the deficiencies or your squad doesn't have the deficiencies that we're talking about today. And, you know, they may well be highlighted. They may well be exposed tonight. I hope that's not the case, because that'll be a battering, you know, for me, a pivotal moment of the season, because it looks as though it's like a big vessel in the sea kind of turning under Brendan Rodgers. You don't want it to have another mishap. Now, Blair Coyle, AJ has the confidence and tenacity to lift other teammates at this level. I totally believe that to be the case, Blair. I think that he is the guy in the tunnel that other players are looking at. You know, that he's got that confidence, that self-belief, and I love that word, that wee bit of savage about him as well. William Peden, welcome back to the show. This is another learning curve for a lot of the team. I spoke about this last season, Lawrence. You know, there was such a lack of Champions League experience in this squad last season. Some of the guys that are going out tonight have been through this. They've ran this race before, and that's going to galvanise them as well going into tonight's game.
Yeah, you think it'd take a bit of pressure off, a bit what to expect. But I think Brendan and Ange start talking, it's about players having belief at time, having belief and confidence in their football. Not going out there thinking they're inferior. Not being overawed by the occasion. Go out and play your football. We've got a game plan. Kyogo knows where the back of the net is. Keep it tight at the back and stick to Brendan's plan. If we can retain the ball over there, we'll create chances. We'll limit the empty chances. There's no reason why we can't go out and beat Feyenoord. Absolutely no reason at all. And if you put it down to its lack experience at that level, what is it at that level? Is it that was caught in the headlights? It was the Champions League music put me off. No, you're playing against a better level player. But a lot of guys have played in World Cups. They've played against decent standard of players before. Whether it's with Celtic or with our national team, it's getting the belief. As a unit, we should be getting out there and expecting to win.
I think going into a game like tonight, compared to last season, the difference, Lawrence, is that you might have had 8 players in a team who hadn't played at that level versus maybe 2 or 3, or maybe even 1 or 2 tonight. Yang, obviously, it looks as though he's going to start, but we'll have a wee chat about that as well. You're then looking at the players around about him to perform and obviously to pull them through it. If there are any issues, any of these rabbit in the headlight moments. By the way, AJ is getting a lot of love in the comments. He likes to mix it, says Alex Birrell. And him, Maeda and Odin take no prisoners. Now, I'm glad you brought up Odin, Robert Highland, because I want to talk about the midfield. We've done a bit on the defence and Kyogo and the goalie. The midfield for me, Liam, I'll come to you first. You've got Callum McGregor coming back into his own, I would say. I can't believe a few weeks ago people were writing him off, saying that his legs have gone. How many times did we hear that about Scott Brown? And he always came back time and time again. He was, he was like a horror movie villain, just kept coming back, Scott Brown, to impose more damage on the opposition. Callum McGregor, I think, is benefiting. It's like Lawrence said before, there's a lot of moving parts around about him that are benefiting his performance. And the inverted fullbacks are definitely benefiting Callum McGregor. Brilliant pass for the goal, obviously, that Kyogo scored at the weekend. Matt O'Reilly, we've been going on about his goals. And you know what? This season, he could have scored a few more this season, but he was back on the score sheet. Big question is, Liam, because I'm taking it for granted that you agree with me that O'Reilly and McGregor start, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
Who plays alongside them? Who gets the other jersey?
Hatate, no question. You saw the quite visible increase in our tempo, in our flair, and in the number of chances we created when Hatate came on at the weekend. David Turnbull put in a good shift, scored the opening goal, but Hatate's on a completely different level. Hatate's on a completely different level to most players at the club, if we're being honest, right? He's one of our best players, and I cannot visualise us getting any kind of result if Hatate's not in that starting lineup tonight. I really can't.
No, I agree with you, right? And it's not a slight on David Turnbull. David Turnbull played a very important part in the win. Getting the breakthrough, fantastic. And so, I'm not taking that away from him. But I think also in a game like tonight, the gaffer might be considering all these defensive attributes that often Hatate is criticised for, Liam. But what I've said all week and what I'll continue to believe is that what he brings to the game far outweighs any of the deficiencies, even on the defensive level. It's something you need to be aware of. You might then be, talking to the players around about Hatate in relation to it. But it's just that earlier on, when Robert Highland mentioned Odin Holm, he didn't play at the weekend, Lawrence. I don't expect any surprises with a lineup. Who do you play? Is it Turnbull? Is it Holm? Is it Hatate?
Definitely not Turnbull, mate. No, it's Cal Matt Riley and Hatate. You talk about Hatate having deficiencies in his game. All our players do. But Brendan's here, to get the players working on them and improving. And Hatate came into the game fairly late on. So, last season he wasn't the best defensively, but maybe Ange allowed him away with that and said, no, I want you to stay up. I want you to try riskier things. Could be a reflection on the manager as much as it's a reflection on perceived deficiencies Hatate has. But Brendan will be working on that and telling, look, this is what I want you to do different. But yeah, I think he's miles better than Turnbull.
I mean, if
you
you
talk
go
about
back
deficiencies for me, Liam, I don't think they're that obvious, personally.
No.
It's the data that's coming out saying that defensively doesn't work back enough, etc. But I agree with Lawrence. You give him free rein. You let him do what he does.
The thing is, sorry to interrupt you, as I was just about to say, we saw last season, particularly when Calmack was injured, that O'Reilly has got it as a defensive midfielder when need be. Mm-hmm. So if Hatate has the freer rein to play like the kind of a number 10 type role, then both O'Reilly and McGregor can drop deeper if need be to cover for that. They both have that capability. And I think if you've got a 3-man midfield and 2 of them know how to defend, then I think you can let the third guy off with him being a bit slack with his defence. And to be honest, I don't think Hatate's defensively that bad. I mean, some of his best assists, if you like, to goals that we've scored have been him playing balls from deep. So, his distribution is outstanding.
He's been a decent right back for us before as well.
Yeah.
Hasn't he? Scored a few with man of the match. So, yeah, I think you're right. You don't need 3 defensive midfielders, do you? Or you wouldn't want all 3 when they drop deep. You're going, well, what are we going to do when we get the ball? Where's the out ball?
Yeah.
Hatate gets man-nod every single time. And in actual fact, the underwater cabbage salesman's just listed what my starting 11 would be. The team will be Hart, Greg Taylor left back, Lagerbielke, Scales, Alistair Johnson, O'Reilly, Hatate, McGregor, Yang, Maeda, Kyogo. Anybody in that team that you would change? Lawrence, I'll come to you first.
I started reading that and thought it was a night out. I'm going like GT, Lager, Scales. I'm like, what's going on? For me, who would we change? I think Yang's got to keep his position there, hasn't he? So I wouldn't change anything on it. With Abada being injured, I think Yang's definitely in to start. We've not seen enough of the new boys. Probably a frustration that they come in so late. And I get that. Brendan needed time to assess the squad, but it almost seemed like we were reverting back to the old way. Get them in at the last minute, save a couple of weeks in wages, and now we're kind of going, well, are they up to match speed? Do they know? How do they link up with their teammates?
They're not ready for tonight. They're not ready for tonight. Simple as that one.
So
even that Phillips.
We're not ready.
Yeah, even that Phillips, if he hadn't rolled his ankle, wouldn't be sharp enough for tonight. I don't think this is the point. But actually, Marquis makes the same point. Turnbull's match sharp and Hatate isn't. You know what? That could well be a consideration, Mark. I totally get that. Jonathan Brown, hail from a windy and wet. Right, okay. Can someone pronounce this? Is it Llandudno?
Llandudno.
Oh, there you go. Thank you. Sorry
just
for
anybody
in Wales that I've offended, sorry there. I'll need to work on that. And we've also got Joe Hamilton. Hail from a very sunny Austria. Feyenoord are top level, John McVeigh says, and I totally agree with that. You go on to say, being honest, I think we will put up a decent fight, but we will likely ship a couple. I can't see us getting a clean sheet. Neither can I, actually. I think there will be goals for both sides tonight. A narrow loss, I'm afraid. I hope I'm wrong. So do we, John. So do we. And I'm going to predict 2 each as well. I'm agreeing with, I think Lawrence said that earlier on. Odin's time to shine will be next season. Robert Highland, I agree with that. And by the way, just to let you know, obviously we're doing quite a lot at the minute. We've got St. Roch's game coming up, completely sold out. We're doing a wee gig with Chris Sutton in a few weeks. 25 tickets to go. If you want to come along and see Chris Sutton absolutely rinsing me on the stage, come along, because that's exactly what he's going to do. And of course, we've got the Sell the Jerseys initiative. You know how to get in touch. You can email us at pauldrondykes@gmail.com. Get on the socials and get in touch with us that way. And we're going to be collecting them for the family. One final thing, just before we came on, the BBC ran a story in relation to the 20 former boys club players. This is reported by the BBC. As I say, there's been no, as far as I know, statement from the club. And the BBC claim that the club is prepared to negotiate to settle the cases of the 28 former boys club players. Obviously, the club has stated previously that Celtic FC is an entirely separate organisation from Celtic Boys Club. But I think under the circumstances, Liam, this will be a welcome conclusion for all parties. It's something the club have to do. under the circumstances.
Absolutely.
You know, that is the right decision, isn't it?
Absolutely. I would just add that, you know, there's going to be various people who are going to jump on this story and put their own spin on it and whatever. But you know what? A beast is a beast. I don't care what team he supports or what club he represents or what club he's loosely affiliated to. These scum deserve everything they get, and the victims deserve as much support as they can possibly get. And I think that it's good that the club is, if the BBC report is accurate, being proactive about looking after the victims, because that is the top priority in any kind of abuse case. I work with kids every day, and the thought of anything happening to them just absolutely sickens me. So
it's appalling.
Yeah.
It's appalling, and there's no resolution that would be good enough for the victims. Absolutely not. But I think that it's something that the club obviously will make a statement on. It's a developing story, Lawrence, but it just broke before we went live there on the BBC website. So it's something we'll be keeping an eye on as well.
Yeah, look, listen, it's something that I think we all hope that would have been addressed sooner. You know, the victims need support, and I don't know what the SFA and Scottish football is doing in general about supporting victims. I know they had an inquiry into it in general, but I don't know what they've done to actually help victims. There needs to be something put in place. You know, you're talking about for former players, that actually throughout football, you know, this is endemic in football, or was endemic in football. There needs to be something put in place to help victims. I don't know what the hold-up's been at Celtic, whether it's legal issues or whatever. Obviously, the club will come out and make a statement, but you should have dealt with it sooner, shouldn't they?
Well, it's one of these ones, Lawrence, that you need to obviously wait until you get the full statement from the club before we'll comment on it again. But the BBC have reported it, and I think anyone looking at that thinks of the victims. We always just think of the victims. And as Liam said earlier on, anybody who has been involved in that needs to be dealt with through the strongest possible channels as well. I hope everybody enjoys the game tonight. I'm absolutely buzzing for it. K-Matsu, Celtic will need 2 or 3 goals. Don't disagree with that. I think we need 2 goals tonight if they hope to get any kind of points. And Plunge McNugget, when is the St. Roch's v Celtic game? It's on the 15th of October. And I don't know what the plans would be now that it's sold out. I don't know if they can build a temporary additional tier on the stadium, but the tickets are going to be like gold dust on the 15th.
They might put it on the internet. Who knows, mate?
Live stream.
Who is it sponsoring the Celtic team?
Oh, there's a number of different sponsors. Transact are going to be sponsoring the match. So they're sponsoring the entire game. I like the idea, though, of a live stream. I think that's a fantastic idea. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a number of sponsors. We're going to be announcing them. We've got player sponsors. We've got kit sponsors, mat sponsors. They will all be announced on the socials. It's been fantastic to work with St. Roch's. It's going to be incredible to see James McGrory Park full to the gunnels, as they say. And Lawrence has just given me an idea, which I'm noting down, and I'll claim it as my own. Live stream the game. There we go.
Just to be clear, mate, it was Liam that you're agreeing with when you're saying 2 each. I'm saying 3-1 Celtic.
All right, okay. Yeah, we'll come back to that on Tuesday next week, Lawrence, where I'm hoping that we can talk about a couple of victories, one against Feyenoord, one against Livingston. Thanks, everybody, for getting involved. 1,000 strong today. Fantastic. We'll talk about the heights of the Champions League this evening, again, 30 minutes before kick-off. All that's left for me to say, Lawrence and Liam, thank you for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.